Hey everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel, where today we're going to talk about the myths surrounding caffeine, why we don't need to really understand anything about the fight or flight state or the physiological effects of caffeine unless you're a scientist or you're working in a lab or something like that. You don't have to go into too much detail. You don't have to watch that many shows on these big podcasts where people talk about the effects of caffeine for 3 hours. The chance of you using that information in your day-to-day is really not high at all. And the chance of you using it compulsively to avoid caffeine, there are definitely people like myself who overuse caffeine. I abused caffeine for the majority of my life. It was not uncommon for me to have, let's say, an average cup of coffee is, let's say, 80 milligrams of caffeine. So my pre-work, I would have 4 to 5 cups of coffee in one serving for a caffeine content perspective, and then maybe 4 to 6 cups of black coffee a day on top of that. I don't know, 10 to 12 caffeine sources a day. Doesn't affect me like it affects other people, but because I had viral encephalitis and viral meningitis when I was younger, and I've gotten tested for this, I've gotten, functional MRIs, I've gotten EKGs or ECGs. They can't find anything on my scans, but they do believe I have some low form of temporal lobe epilepsy, which is an effect from viral encephalitis and meningitis. It's actually one of the most common symptoms. Partial seizures or bad ones. I don't get them a lot, but if I drink a lot of caffeine, I can get them. When I have them, I forget where I am. I forget how to speak. I know what's happening. I can hear the person, but I can't respond, which I believe is called Broca's area. Erica has a lot of advanced degrees in neuro, so it's cool to just listen to her on that. But anyway, you don't have to know any of that stuff. It's cool to know, but you don't have to know any of it. And why we primarily avoid caffeine, and we're going to go into that in this video. So before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below, let me know what you think about this video, and let's just jump right into it. So at this point in my life, I try to have 2 to 3 caffeine sources a day, and I've been taking a larger break from pre-workout for now than I want to, even though I really do like pre-workout because I do train really, really hard, or I do really hard hikes in the mountains. But for myself, just genetically, because of the viral encephalitis and viral meningitis and the effects it's had on my brain, I am a little bit different in that way. So it is something that you do have to be aware of. Now, most people, I got a Milo here in my coffee. Daisy's over there snoring like Darth Vader per usual. So most people are going to avoid coffee. The reason why is, if I was to just go on YouTube, let's do it together. I've never actually done this, so I don't know what's going to come up. Okay, so let's type in anxiety, and caffeine. Let's see what comes up. All right. The shocking effects of caffeine on your mental health. It's like some person pouring coffee into their head. Caffeine makes anxiety worse. Not true. Caffeine anxiety connection no one is talking about by Dr. Oz. Also incorrect. Anxiety and caffeine. Cutting back on caffeine makes a world of a difference. Avoidance. When you're, you could tell this is a fun one. When you told caffeine causes more anxiety, it's a guy about to drink coffee. What coffee's actually doing to your body. Avoiding caffeine with prednisone. Caffeine makes your anxiety worse. Caffeine anxiety, here's what you need to know. Caffeine is caffeine linked to depression? How to stop panic attacks and avoid caffeine. It's all terrible information. So coffee has no correlation whatsoever. I know all of you are going to throw every systematic review, every meta-analysis at me. There is no scientific provable evidence that caffeine creates like anxiety in the sense of life altering. I'm not going to say caffeine doesn't cause anxiety because that's just too easy to pick apart. To think that caffeine is going to absolutely make your anxiety worse is such a blanket statement with no context. I drink 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day and feel zero anxiety. Not even a little bit. Sure, I have the jitters, I guess, but I don't mind that. So it doesn't matter that it's happening. Erica does 75 hard. He did it for the second time. I did it with part of it with her this year, and I did 75 days of no caffeine, which was easier than I thought it was going to be, and I really didn't feel any different. I slept a little bit better, I guess, but I don't care about that. I'm not afraid of not sleeping good. And this is such a difficult topic to talk about because you're just everyone freaks out and just throws the science at you. It's all fear. It's all fear-based. It's just fear. I'm not saying that you have to go out there and drink coffee cup after cup after cup after cup after cup. But to say that there's this direct correlation, absolute correlation, that coffee 100% causes anxiety, or if you cut your coffee, it will 100% decrease your anxiety, is just absolute bullshit. It's just bullshit. Balancing your caffeine is important, but to say that there's a direct 100% correlation with coffee makes your anxiety worse, it's not true. It's not true. Correlation does not mean causation. That's one of the number one most important statements in all of data and all research. And I know that there's all sorts of data out there that's going to prove me wrong. That's fine. I also understand this, OCD and anxiety recovery, better than almost anyone on the planet. Right? Because it's what we do for a living, and this is why we're the biggest company online right now for people coming to us. I mean, it's why, we see thousands of new people a year all over the world because people are sick of being told blanket statements about caffeine or alcohol or anything really, like any of these substances where people say it's definitely bad. It makes you feel like you're having control. I haven't even taken a sip of this yet. It makes it feel like you're having control, but you're not. You're giving into avoidance. How many people do I know that have OCD or chronic anxiety who have avoided caffeine, who I would consider very robustly sound with unconditional self-life other acceptance and are really good at building grit, long-term sustainability with consistency while handling problems under stress? Almost nobody. I have not met them. But every person I do meet who's super against caffeine typically talks exactly the way I would imagine they would talk. They'd be very probably bad at problem solving efficiency, not in the OCD solving sense, but handling life's problems. I mean, think about how many people just for a 2-day exposure, if they were working in a really high pressure situation and you're like, you have to drink a coffee every other 3 hours or every 2 hours all day today and tomorrow. So 2 days, you have to drink 7 to 8 cups of coffee in a high pressure job. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying for an example. Most people would lose their shit. They would lose their minds. Understandably so, because you're not having a lot of caffeine. But I mean, I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of things that Huberman says I don't agree with. But Huberman talks about caffeine in the sense where he's like, yeah, I drink a lot of caffeine. There's a lot of benefits to it. This idea that it's going to make you depressed, this idea it's going to make you anxious, this idea it's going to inherently make your anxiety worse and not recover from OCD is just simply unfounded and untrue and leads to so much avoidance behaviors and so many compulsions. So I usually recommend if you're not, because this is what happens. Yeah, Nick, after like 6 calls, I haven't drank any caffeine in 6 years. And they explain why. We talk about all this stuff and I have to explain them like I want you to introduce 1 cup of coffee a day or even half decaf, half, and they just freak it. That's not a normal response. It's not a healthy response. Let's not use the word normal. It's not a healthy response. So you need to be very aware and look at the people that you're taking information from. I hate to say it, whether it's OCD, PTSD, GAD, panic disorder, body dysmorphic disorder, any other type of anxiety stuff. A lot of well-intentioned people, therapists, psychiatrists, spiritual leaders, other coaches, they don't look like the people that you want to be taking advice from, regardless of what their degrees are, because they look very fragile. And that's not a good thing for mental health. Long-term, robust, unconditional acceptance is not fragile. It's not fragile at all. It doesn't make you into a douchebag, but you just idea of like, oh, you got to be very careful. Any amount of caffeine is burnout. Don't do anything to upset yourself. Like, this is why we have the society we have today. So, yeah. Anyway, moral of the story, drink caffeine within balance. Phil@OCDrecovery.com. Let me know what you think. Hope to hear back from you soon. And again, I know someone's going to watch this and lose their mind. But I'm telling you right now, no matter what the data says, there is no direct correlation at all between this substance and it absolutely making your anxiety and your OCD worse. Because there are plenty of people who drink loads of caffeine and don't feel any anxiety and no OCD symptoms. So how do you explain that? Hope to hear from you soon.